Welcome to Town Hall number 66, Wednesday, August 4th, 2021. Let's talk about our sponsors as we normally do. And Mike, I'm going to do it today. Wait.
Go for it.
Okay. So cue the councils. Cue is coming up. I'm actually doing a fireside chat in the next one that's coming up, which I'm very excited about, which is with my son, Ryan, to talk a little bit about the perspective of millennials. One of the things I was talking with a Ukrainian about, just to throw it out there, Mike, was that most Ukrainians don't do much when a member passes on, and they don't reach out. And I was talking to this Ukrainian, they said, yeah, we generally get almost a negative call because sometimes they get an extra payroll and they got to pay back taxes or whatever. And so I thought that was interesting. And certainly, so I talked to my son about it and I said, hey, if I pass, he's like, oh, I'm heading to, Malibu, I'll be gone. I said, yeah, but are you going to keep banking, with Ent? And he said, Ent Schmidt. No, actually, he's a big Canadian guy, but I know a lot of other millennials maybe aren't. And so something to consider. So you should check out the Kingdom Councils, a couple coming up, Tech and Ops coming up.
Yeah, do you have a date on that yet? Because I would love to sit in on that as well. Check it out.
I'm pretty sure, for mine, I will get that. Melissa has it, so she can lay it out there, probably in the chat. Correlation. Did you know that Desert Financial is a huge big Canadian that's running Correlation? And so they have a whole company called SwitchThink that is dedicated to doing that. I got to tour that this week. I went out and I golfed with Ron Amstutz and Scott Butler, who's the CEO of SwitchThink, and it was really cool. I've known about Correlation for a long, long time. As you know, we worked pretty closely with them. It was really cool to see a whole credit union really just taking advantage of that system. So for those of you that haven't seen it, you should check it out. And I guarantee you, if you're interested, I can get you to talking to SwitchThink pretty easily. I can go find Scott Butler and send him your way. So see you.
And talk about open banking. They got
yeah, they do. Yeah, they're really the premier for the API stuff.
Yeah.
And CU Broadcast, my good friend Mike Lawson, who has graciously always been there to support me. And Mike, that. And
we're here for you, man.
Your stuff is just great. I watched a good AI conversation you have with now I can't remember who it was, but it was definitely one of your really good. It was well done. I can't remember. It was Delta Credit.
Naftali.
Yes, Naftali. Yes. The
folks from Centrelink. Yeah, he's a sharp guy.
Yeah, you should check that one out if you're not. So maybe post that link in the chat. And obviously, Best Innovation Group. We are really, really heavily right now helping people with growth and strategy. We also have been doing a ton of add-ons for Alchemy and also Q2. So we're excited about that. And we also have our 5 product, which is continuing to grow. So there's our Tech and Ops, September 21st through the 23rd.
The web address right there, big5.ai, something new?
Yeah, it's coming up. You should check it out. I am taking it to the next level. I'm right in the middle of some patenting process, so I can't talk about everything just yet. But we're on our way. So
exciting.
Right. Yeah. So okay, Mike, here's the deal. Let me frame this up for you, and then we'll get some folks to talk to us about it.
Yeah.
So I start looking around. I've been traveling. I just got back from Arizona. And Arizona is the first time I've traveled since February of last year. And what I was, immediately surprised by was we were, as I said, we were spending time with their board, and we were spending time with Kevin and I were spending time with their digital innovation and strategy team. And they had a big call in the morning with their board. We knew we had to speak to the board the next night about whether or not they were bringing people back. And they chose not to. So that was like a week ago. Okay. Then the next day, we hear that people who have been vaccinated, they're not highly likely to get the new Delta variant. And I'm going to go over the Delta variant just briefly so people know what it is. But they can. And if they do, they are, and Glenn, you can pipe in on this too, because Glenn does this type of research as well. They are just as infected, even though they're not as sick, and just as likely to pass it on as a non-vaccinated person, which was a surprise. Then after that, there's this thing called R-naught. I think it's spelled NAUGHT. And what it is it's a way to calculate how many people that Mike will likely infect if he gets the virus. So the original COVID its R naught was like 2.3 to 4 or something,
Mhm.
which was pretty damn high because it's exponential, right? That means if this were, imagine if you got in a car crash, Mike, and that meant that anybody within 10 feet of you, let's say there were 10 cars within 10 feet of you, that 2 of those cars were going to crash within the next 2 weeks. We would not be driving. That would be off the table. It would just
Pretty
not
much.
be a thing, right?
Yeah.
So the R naught on the original COVID, whatever it's 19, whatever that was, whatever their name for that was that. The R naught on this Delta variant is between 5 and 4.5 and 6 or something.
Goodness. Uh-oh. Hello. John. John has frozen. Oh no. Just right when we were getting to the meat and the potatoes of the conversation. Melissa, do we know what happened to John?
I'm checking.
Okay. He's still in the middle of his R naught. Hang on, folks. Hang on.
Well, this is Glenn. I just noticed breaking news about 30 minutes ago, kind of to that same point, is the New York Auto Show just got canceled.
Wow.
Which was supposed to be scheduled for the latter part of August, which did not make me very happy because it gave me a little bit of a case of deja vu. I remember when a couple of things. I remember South by Southwest, and I remember the NCAA tournament. And those were the kind of bellwethers. And I don't think we're at that point yet, but the shoes are kind of beginning to drop a little bit. And that was the biggest example I could think of, along with Fall Out Boy canceling out of the Hella Mega Tour. I don't know if you saw that too. But I mean, I was very much looking forward to a lot of the music venues reopening. And now there's been some challenges where, the one thing that they've been pretty strict about is the performers cannot be COVID positive. And now you're starting to see some positive tests among performers who have to back off the tours.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of different kind of new scenarios that are coming into the mix.
Well, and you're watching all the precautions that the Olympics are taking, and some of the athletes that tested positive are out. So we saw that over the last couple of weeks. So I mean, and it's very interesting, and to even think about a lot of the industry conferences opening up this fall. What's going to happen with those? Are we going to are we going to dial it back? Have to dial it back again? Because there might be a lot of people who are, well, I don't know. This Delta thing is not a pretty sight right now. So,
well, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, because very specifically, it's another New York City event. Finovate was returning to a live stage, still is returning to a live stage, September 13th through 15th in New York City. Now, there's a couple of different things going on there. One, it's a significantly smaller event than the New York City Auto Show, so it might not be as big of a concern. And they also do have it all set up for a hybrid approach where people who are not comfortable can still continue to participate virtually.
Right.
I mean, and then you got a couple things coming up in Las Vegas in the fintech space in late October, early November.
Mm-hmm. Well, Nacusa will be there.
Exactly. That's one of the ones I've been talking about. That is Credit Union
November.
It's like there's an amazing amount of a confluence of a bunch of different things happening with the credit union space that first or second week in November.
Yeah, exactly. And October, plenty of shows in October. So it's going to be interesting. John, are you there, sir?
I am. Apparently the variant got to my internet, and here I am. So I was able to get back in on my phone, but it looks like my internet is currently not working. So I'll just do it from here.
Okay.
Sounds like you guys were carrying on what I said.
Yeah, Glenn was pointing out a lot of events the New York Auto Show is going to be canceled, which is supposed to take place in late August, I believe. Was that right, Glenn?
That's right. That just came out in the last hour or so. And then we just started kind of speculating on some of the industry, the banking and fintech industry events coming up in October, November.
Because people are making plans,
I know, and that's where I was going. So this R naught is super high. And because of that, it's really, really transmissive. And then the other challenge is people who are infected, or pardon me, even if they're vaccinated, if they somehow get it. So let me finish my story. So the next day I read about this, and I, just sometimes in hotels, I just get up and turn on the TV. I usually just watch the local news because I want to know the weather. And they're going over this whole thing. And they then say that, oh, by the way, if you're vaccinated, you can get infected, but it's a very low probability. So, and it's called a breakthrough infection. That's the name of it. If you're vaccinated and get infected. So I go into the office there at Desert Financial and immediately find out that they have a breakthrough infection. One of the folks in their call center or something like that, I don't know. But anyways, they basically made the determination that they're not going to be bringing people back because they're just not sure at the moment. But he said, Jeff, who's their CEO, is just a fantastic dude, and Ron
he's a
and all
good
those
guy.
guys. He said, things are about to get interesting because the CDC and everybody else is sort of saying mask mandate, but they passed local federal laws that say that you can't force anybody to wear a mask. Then you've got Denver here. The mayor just announced that everybody who works for federal, they not only do they have to wear a mask, but they got to get vaccinated. And then you got schools and everything else. And now, obviously, the Craigians who are just about to sort of get back into this mode. So I wanted to just see, maybe go around the room. And I will start with Glenn, just to get some perspective on what he's hearing, and Mike, you too. But then I was going to talk to a couple different Craigians and if they're willing to talk and see what they're thinking. Because I think we need to share some information and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, we'd love to get that point
So
of view.
Glenn?
For sure. Me, Glenn?
I don't have anything specific to the credit union space, but again, I always feel like I've got a somewhat unique perspective because I may have mentioned on here before, I can literally walk to CDC headquarters from where I live. So we live in a bit of a bubble to some extent in the middle of the state, which, like you mentioned, John, has put, I'm not sure if they've formally made it illegal to invoke mask mandates. The city of Atlanta has put a mask mandate back in place. And that was actually the source of some strong, disagreement.
Oh yeah, there's
I think
people
lawsuits between the city and state.
Yeah, they're protesting, and now you've got the big protest. Looks like it's the schools. You've got parents saying, "Yeah, we should be able to choose," and then you've got people going, "Well, but your right to choose doesn't supersede this." And it was interesting because I was watching an episode last night. It talked about polio, which, Glenn, you're old enough to remember polio, right?
Oh yeah, I'm just barely, but I mean, I remember taking the vaccine, or it was still a little thing you swallowed rather than a shot.
Right, and so, but they were just sort of juxtaposing that to now and what the difference is, and the fact that you get so much information, blah blah blah. With polio, they just didn't care because the healthcare groups were sort of what do you call it? They were a trusted entity. There was no, I mean, if you think just about WebMD, I mean, how people started questioning their doctors, as soon as the internet showed up, and they were doing it before then when there were, medical books.
Well, there weren't. I mean, the other key is there weren't, quote unquote, multiple sources of truth. There was a single thread to where the information was coming from.
I think there's always been multiple sources of truth. I just don't think they were easily as accessible as they are now.
Yeah.
I think you could always find a book that says, medical care is hokey pokey, and you should, you should just drink Canadian syrup. That's how you get better. Like you could always find that, but it wasn't mainstream. It wasn't something you could stumble upon in your normal days browsing or, at a newspaper or a bookstore. So yeah, that was fascinating to me. It looks like my internet's back up, so I'm trying to jump back in on the other one, which I'll do in a minute here. So if that comes up, I'll mute here once they let me in. But so yeah, I can see the CDC thing. They're the ones that put out the guidance out of an abundance of caution, I guess. And so what does that look like? What's this going to be? I'm just fascinated by how this might play out. And so yeah, I'm confused as to exactly what to do for the Craigians too, because they got to be going through the same conundrum. And then you've got, do you mask mandate? Can you even mask mandate? What about vaccinated? Are we allowed to add? This is exactly the situation we were hoping would never happen. We've all thought we were sort of in Camelot about 3 weeks ago, right? And now we're not. So that was
John,
kind
I'm curious, John, you mentioned Desert. Were they already back in the office and now they're sending people home, or were they in the process of coming back and they just slowed down that process?
They were slowly pulling it together, but they were just about to bring everybody back. They had a meeting to talk about it because they were on track to do it, and there they are.
I think a lot of Craytons are in that position.
So I guess let's hear from Creighton. So I'm going to start with my friend Gary. Hey, Gary.
Hey, John, good to see you.
Yeah, man.
So we had just opened back up when the governor had opened it, and
Tell everybody where you are. So I think it's pertinent to know where you are. in
we're
terms
in
of the
Oregon.
whole-
We're in Oregon and Southwest Washington.
So Oregon and Southwest Washington are not really hotspots, right?
Right. I don't. Yeah. I don't. I
They're
don't
not.
think so.
They're not like classified. It's like Texas,
Right.
Florida, Tennessee,
The rule the
California.
governor had said was when we get to 70% vaccinations, then everything will open back up. And she actually opened it a little bit before the 70%. It was like 68 or 69 a few weeks ago. And so we were all returning back to the office. Nobody has to wear masks anymore. But we are implementing a hybrid model for the people that were set up to work from home, to still be able to work from home. But they're also required to come in the office. I think they can work from home 3 days a week and have to come in 2 days a week. But now I think that's going to be brought back up again. So I haven't heard anything official from HR, but I'm sure they're keeping a finger on the pulse of all this. And I haven't heard any changes from where we currently are. So currently we don't have to wear masks. We can go wherever we want. People have returned back to the branches in the office. It was starting to get back to normal. And that's the current situation we're in. I've not heard an announcement of pulling back on that or anything yet, but that could be coming. I don't know. And I haven't heard anything from the governor either.
So question on that. Was there any thought process around the school system and the guidances there? Because here's what I think could happen. I may be way off on this, but there could, schools seem to be in conflict, particularly in Florida. And I'm hoping I can talk to Kevin, but I'm just going to ask him here because sometimes he can't chat. He's just listening. If people feel like their kids are going to be endangered by sending them to school because there's no mask mandate at school, and obviously this is their choice, but so they decide to keep them out. They may have the other side of this coin is this labor shortage that we're running into, and so does that mean that if they say, well, I got to stay home for my kids, I just wonder how the grading reacts to that, because I don't know, it's just a rock and a hard place. Because it'd be one thing if it was one person with a child with special needs or something happened. It's a whole nother thing when it's 10, 15, 20 people, 5 people in the workforce that it's a significant percentage of your organization.
Yeah, my kids are grown and out of
Right.
college and working, so I don't have a finger on the pulse of that right now. But hearing what's on the news and stuff, we're in the middle of the summer, but we're in August, so things are starting to gear up for school starting beginning in September. And I haven't heard if there's going to be mask mandate or I'm not sure in Oregon where we are on that.
Yeah, it's just fascinating.
I'm curious, Gary, in terms of the people coming back to the office, has there been any reluctance, and is the reluctance more driven by appreciating the work from home lifestyle, or is there a true safety concern? Have you kind of gotten any sense of, or is everybody just perfectly happy to be back in the office and interacting?
I think people are happy to be back in the office. I'm still working from home, but
But they told you had to, right?
yeah, I'm not allowed.
Gary is boycotting water, and so he's
But I
not
think
allowed
people
to.
are relieved to not have to wear masks anymore, and I think that's a really good thing. I don't know what the reaction will be if there's another mask mandate or whatever. I'm not sure if there'll be, I'm not sure how that'll go over.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything yet.
So Kevin Wright unmuted, which makes me think he might be willing to talk, and he is in the center of everything. He's like right between the hottest spot in the world and, in Florida. So Kevin, did you unmute so you could talk?
Yep, I
Awesome.
can talk. So, we all came back to the. I never left the office. I was always here.
Yeah,
But
I had a feeling.
we brought staff back on July 1st, and so we do run a hybrid for back office. We have a mixture. Some are at home 1 day a week. Some are at home up to 4 days a week, but everybody is here on at least Thursdays. And so when we first brought everybody back, we had a couple of people who all the additional noise was a problem for them, and they had to deal with that. And we had a couple who just decided after being here for a week they didn't want to do it anymore. But after that first week, it was essentially fine. Now, as the cases have gone up, and we've looked at those around us, as of Friday last week, we highly encourage masks, but they aren't mandatory. However, as a result of that, the entire senior team wears a mask anytime we are in a public area or in a meeting, so that we can establish the standard across the board. We do not require a vaccination. We highly encourage it, and like what Ohio and California and some states have done, we are doing a lottery where anybody who turns in their vaccination card could win $1,000. So we'll pull 3 for anybody who gets their vaccination before the end of September, I believe it is.
Oh, wow.
So we started doing that as well. Nothing mandatory yet in terms of masks. Now, in terms of the schools, we have to sit and wait because we have a governor who said, schools, you can't do this, and we have schools who said, we don't care what you say, governor. So all I can say is these school board meetings have been very highly contentious. They've had to have police come and break up a few of them for the different districts. They've gone, into midnight. Some districts are taking a hard line of not wanting to follow what the governor said. Others are sitting back and waiting. So we just don't know.
So Kevin, if I remember right, you have still at least one school age kid, right?
I don't have any. I mean, I don't have a staff. But all of my staff have school-age children, like
kids.
every
Yeah, I
single one of
remember.
them.
Yeah.
So, and they all start school next week.
Yeah, that's when it hits in August. Yeah, Kevin, we were talking about that with our Florida people. Huh. And so what about branches?
So all the branches have been open the whole time. The only difference was as of June 15th, we removed the appointment only and we allowed people to start coming in. However, appointments are still very heavily used, which is really the outcome we wanted, right? We had implemented the Coconut scheduling system, and we had actually done that before COVID had started. So we were really happy that we already had that in place. So people got used to making appointments. They mainly continue. However, branch traffic had finally returned to the normal numbers. And now we did talk about on Friday, do we need to remove all of the chairs from the lobby and so that they really can't just sit around. Again, we're holding off for right now. We keep watching what some others are doing. So it's like after we met on Friday, Disney decided everybody's going to have to be vaccinated. But Publix is still, masks are encouraged but not required. We tend to go along with Publix. So if Publix goes back to mandatory, we may see ourselves go back to mandatory. We'll see.
I have a little insight on that. So I have a friend who's pretty high up at Target, and Target just said masks again for all employees.
Yeah.
And they're doing, which I think is brilliant. I think if you are listening to this thing and you walk away with nothing else, the lottery thing that they are doing is brilliant. That is really smart. I think that should be implemented everywhere because everybody's just so fearful of it. And some of it's not fear, it's just timing. I mean, it's a busy life. It's worse when you can't go places and you're trying to chase things around. So I think that's really, really smart. But coming back to the mandates of Target, and they are part of a group that I believe includes the Publix vendors and some others, and there was a consortium that met, according to my friend who's at that organization. And person just got hired, my son's fiance, and she said, "Yep, masks. I have to wear a mask, and it has to be red because it's Target. Everything has to be red." So,
Kevin, I had another quick question. You mentioned before, after about a week coming back, some people just decided they didn't want to do it anymore. Do you mean you actually ran into attrition, or they were moving back to doing it remotely?
Attrition. Yeah, so we kind of drew a hard line. It wasn't an option. It was each of the managers got to decide. They had to submit a plan. If their department was going to work remote, it was going to be, how are they going to continue to do this? How are you going to manage their performance? What does it look like? So each department manager sent that into their senior manager. Their senior manager had to bless it for all employee level. Anybody who was a manager level, it had to go to the CEO for approval. So we don't have a single manager level employee who's working from home. They're 100% in the office. The biggest issue that we had was when we would have Zoom meetings, because that's all it ever was, we were significantly less productive over Zoom than we were when we were in person.
How'd you measure that? I wonder. Just curious.
Literally the output of the meetings, just being able to see what was the participation levels was less. Sure, if you turned on cameras, it got better, but it still wasn't as good. And it was really frustrating for some of the people in the meetings because the voice, you're still stepping over everybody. So that like you would have thought after a year that you'd be used to it, but some people still really struggled with it. So we really wanted to get, we started to lose some of that culture stuff that we've been working on so hard for the last 4 years. I mean, we've really had a big culture push here to adjust some things once Kevin Miller came in as the new CEO. And so we felt like we were going to start losing some of that. And that's really why we wanted to bring everybody back. So we took a hard line. So we had some people who just, after working remote and then them coming back in, decided there's enough jobs out there. I don't have to be here. And I will quit here and go and find one of those other jobs.
So that was kind of the effect of the labor shortage in a way. Sort of a byproduct
Yeah, I mean,
of it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll be honest. We have we are struggling right now with hiring. I'm down 40 positions in total right now, and so it is tough to get quality applicants. Whereas before, I used to get, depending on the position type, like for a standard teller level position, we would probably get 100 applicants. Now I'm getting 4 to 5 a day. And then from an IT perspective, especially on the security side and the developer side, that's where the real struggle is, because we're not offering 100% remote. And most of them feel like they can get 100% remote from somewhere, and that's what they want. So the only way that we're making any progress is either I'm paying them a little bit more than what that other company is willing to pay them, or there's somebody who actually craves being able to in-person collaborate with others.
Yeah, no, I get it. So I just pulled this up, and the reason I pulled it up was I was just trying to figure out like that and Kevin, I know you're like me, a fan of numbers. the R naught on this, it's not exponential. It's almost logarithmic. Look at this. This is nuts. And if you play it out, it lands up here somewhere. And the other thing that concerns me, and I'm just trying to, and where I'm going is, I think there's a high likelihood that like people are going to cry uncle, and they're going to want to pull all the way back again. But it sounds like that's just not going to be a big deal for us because we're prepared. But it could hurt business plans. It could hurt obviously all these conferences and things we're working on. How do you, if it did get pulled back, if you just kind of said, if Florida finally cried uncle, and Mike just pointed out an article that says Americans are willing to take pay cuts to never go into the office again. That's interesting, a Bloomberg article. But how would you think that would affect things from your perspective? Given,
I mean, that was one of the discussions on Friday was, for instance, if we made mask mandatory, so the contact center reports to me, for instance.
Mhm.
So the first comment I made is if we make masks mandatory again across the board, meaning even from their cubes, I need to send my contact center staff home. And I need to
because you can't talk through the mask.
Yeah, putting that over it, it's a miserable experience. They are constantly having to repeat. Members on the other side can't hear them. There's people who are frayed nerves already. The last thing I need is giving a member another reason to yell at one of my contact center agents when I can't fill all the spots as is because some people would rather just sit at home. So I just, so that was one of the first discussions that we had. We have the equipment, luckily, because we already had to have that. So that's not the end of the world. We could certainly pivot fast enough. And I think that's why right now we're just being cautiously optimistic. The biggest discussion that we had, though, is that, so from a breakthrough perspective, we've had 7.
You've had seven breakthroughs? People who are vaccinated?
Yeah.
How? I want to stop because Kevin, I know you so well, but Kevin, they keep saying it's so rare. There's no way it can be this rare with that kind of number. Just you alone. That would be that would be like winning the lottery at least 4 times for you to experience that.
That's 7 out of how many?
So I can't tell you how many that I have vaccinated because we didn't, in the state of Florida, we can't technically ask. We can, from a business standpoint, I guess we can, but the governor doesn't want you to ask. So we've just taken we'll ask if you want to voluntarily give us your card, we'll take that. So I can't say, I can tell you that I've got 550 employees total. I have no idea what the percentages are, but depending on which report you read, you would see somewhere between 50% and say 70% are vaccinated. So there's your numbers. But I've had 7 employees.
That's what I was after. I was curious what your total workforce was.
So 7 out of 275.
Where then, we're talking about a good 3-4%.
And here's the other thing: all 7 of them, every single one of them, and it's been over the last 2 weeks. Well, actually 3 weeks. The first one was 3 weeks ago. Every single one of them who had the breakthrough had major symptoms, not minor symptoms. All of them had fevers. They all had. All of them lost their sense of taste and smell, both combined. All of them had body aches. All of them had serious fatigue to the point where, unlike in the first go-round, I had plenty of people who I could send a laptop out to, and even though they tested positive, they were able to work from home. Out of the 7, only 1 of the 7 have been able to work in the first 2 weeks at all. They haven't, the others have not been able to work. They said that they don't have the energy, their headaches are too severe, they're just not able to perform. I've had one who said that the headaches are there, but they're able to go ahead and get through their day. So now I'm not counting on any of them. Our original plan was if you were vaccinated and you had close contact, nothing happened unless you showed symptoms. Now, if you're vaccinated and you had close contact, we're sending you home. You need to go and get tested, come back negative, then you can come back. If you're not negative, then, you're going to stay home again. So we're basically treating you like whether you were vaccinated or not doesn't make any difference. You're still going to have to be treated the same as somebody who isn't, just because of what we've been seeing here.
So you probably don't know this info, but is it across the board on the types of vaccinations, the Johnson & Johnson? And if you don't know, it's fine. I just was curious.
Yeah, I mean, I know two of the people who had breakthroughs. I know one was Moderna and one was Pfizer. I don't know any staff who've had Johnson & Johnson at all. So I really couldn't say about any of the others either, but I know, again, one was Pfizer and one was Moderna.
Hey, so for people on the call, if you're willing to share, if you've been vaccinated, do me a favor and just put in what you got. I'd be curious to see what it turns out as, just for the numbers we have here.
And I'm not vaccinated at all.
Okay. So from your perspective, is there any business, like for example, business development, other things on the table that would, sort of be put aside in terms of this year? Like for example, thought process here. If this goes back to the way it was, I think you would agree, I know I would, that mortgages, and Glenn, I throw this at you as well, we'd see the market still stay extremely high for real estate.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, I think even the fear, even if it doesn't go that much further, would probably continue to argue in favor of, a hot real estate market. I've heard here locally, I mean, it was so overheated that it's hard to really draw comparisons, but I've heard that things have at least kind of moderated a bit. Slowing is not the right word, but they're not quite as crazy over the last couple of months, maybe because people got themselves situated before the school year. But I would have to agree with you that, if people think they're going to be hunkered down, that gives you that much more priority to get a place that you're going to be comfortable in.
I don't know. We certainly didn't see real estate slow down. So
Yeah, not here either.
Yeah, I was just wondering what I'm trying to figure out is what can we share with other credits? And Kevin, you guys are always so bright and so willing to share. Thank you. And then, what can we share, and what is there something like, can we turn this into a silver lining somehow? If we're going to be back at this, can we be the guys that go, listen, this sucks, but guess what? We've been thinking this through, and there's some opportunity here. We're going to run, Kevin, I think you already do this year-round summer skips skips for loans. But not everybody does that. And that could be something that could help people, particularly because the difference between this time and last time, to my way of thinking, is that we have this difference at the federal level and the state level of the mandate. And as a result, we will have people who are forced to make a choice between their job and what they consider a health issue. And when they do that, and I'm not talking about for the credit, I'm talking about just in general, that are members of, and the school system's a great example, obviously, Kevin, because you're pointing that out. And you guys used to be a school credit union before you were Addition. And so those folks who opt out of this or do something, or maybe more than there were last time, are going to need financial assistance, financial help. So I was just trying to think through what that looks like. Have you guys put any thought into that?
I mean, for us, it's the schools are actually fighting for teachers. So they actually had a large number of teachers who chose to retire because last year they didn't want the remote learning and having to do both remote and in-class learning at the same time. There were plenty of teachers who said, "I'm never doing this again." And so I know that they were offering a lot of incentives just to get teachers in. So depending on how that all pans out, we've offered various different programs for them. We did the Skip-a-Pay last year when this first started happening. However, when we mine our data to see how many people have lost their jobs, the numbers were significantly lower than what we anticipated they would be. We thought they would be way higher, and they just weren't. The biggest jumps that we took is when Disney and Universal kind of had layoffs. We felt that a little bit. Some of the hotels early on, we felt it because that was the hospitality industry definitely had taken some cuts. But again, those people seemed to find employment again because we were also matching off the deposits against money coming in from the state so that we could identify those who might be getting unemployment benefits.
Well, I know you do a lot with data, and you know, those are that's what you have to do to stay in front of this. You've got to sort of make that.
Yeah, the biggest thing for us is just to continue to support local business. So try and run specials on like credit card bonus points on, you know, eating local and you know, trying to continue to pump up the economy of your local area as much as we possibly can.
Interesting. Well, thank you so much for sharing. You know, I think there's a lot to be learned from what you guys have done. I wanted to see, and he says he's connecting the audio, but I don't see where he got connected. I was hoping to hear from Jim Yates, who is in Wyoming, which is not a hot spot. But let's talk to Michael, my buddy Michael Jackson, if he's available. He's up in at, you know, Maine, an interesting place. Michael, talk to us.
Well, what do you want to know? I'm sorry, I jumped on the call late. My meeting ran over.
So, oh, no worries. We're sharing kind of the whole purpose of this one is that we're kind of seeing this pandemic rise up again. And, you know, Kevin Wright from Addition was just sharing some of what they've done, their challenges, their successes, whether or not they're, we had a great, and I was just recently, I traveled for the first time since last year, and they've decided, you know, because they're in a hot spot in Arizona, that they're looking to bring people back. Wanted to see kind of what was going on in your neck of the woods and what you guys are seeing. And also if you had any breakthrough infections, because this is very curious. What Kevin just said, you missed it, but he has had 7 breakthrough infections. That's ridiculous. The numbers aren't matching up to what they're saying, but go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen any breakthroughs here, that not that I'm aware of, in any ways. And but we're not in a hot spot. I mean, geographically located, Maine is, you know, way at the top, northeast. There's no reason to come here unless you're vacationing. And so we've just, you know, been lucky that we're low populated state. We're an older state, so we have a higher vaccination rate as well. So it hasn't been too bad. You know, I mean, we've had to close some branches and stuff like that throughout the pandemic, and you know, do what everybody else does and stuff. But right now it's not too bad. We're not hot spots. Like, you know, I was supposed to go to Florida next week for a Filene event, had to cancel that because you know, you guys are having it pretty rough. I think, is that where Kevin was from?
Florida? Yeah, Kevin's in Orlando.
Oh, Orlando. Okay. Yeah. So, so that, but yeah, other than that, we're doing all right. I mean,
so give us the state of Ukraine. Everybody's back in the office. Nobody's working from home.
No. So we went remote pretty quick. So you've been to our center.
I have. It's a beautiful center.
Pretty well for remote because of our workspace. All of our back office staff already had laptops, so that made the transition out very easy. So I think we have about 12 to 13 people here at the center that are either full-time or hybrid working right now, and everybody else is still remote at this point. So we're working through what coming back looks like and stuff like that right now, and you know, when that will be, and what the new environment will be, and what the new choices that they'll have available to them depending upon what they want and stuff like that. So we've surveyed all of our staff twice. We surveyed them back in what their preferences were. We surveyed them back in September, and then we just surveyed them again back in July to see the difference of working, you know, what their thoughts were around working remote, problems, issues, different things like that they were having at the start, and then kind of towards what at that point was the end, which is reinsurgency, not so sure, but what their feelings were, you know, 7, 8 months, 9 months later, with, you know, adapting to those environments.
That's interesting. Just the surveying. So Kevin, you kind of said it wasn't a democracy. Did you guys do any surveying like that? I didn't think about that. I thought that's pretty cool what those guys did. He might have to jump back in, or he might have to jump off. he might have just got a breakthrough. So yeah, I'd be interested. Oh, go ahead. He looks like he's unmuted. Go ahead, Kevin. Please tell me I didn't get dumped again. Nope, I'm still here. Okay. Well, yeah, I think that's really good. I think this surveying is a very good idea too. So that's another one. And you know, that's a good way anonymously to find out what the vaccination rate is. I mean, it feels
We
like
didn't ask that, so we stayed away from that.
because they wouldn't trust you. They think you'd know.
Surveying the staff whether they were vaccinated or not. But we did ask, I broke it out into 5 questions, like, you know, and what's your preference around coming back? Do you want to be remote only? Do you want to be mostly remote where you're coming back maybe 1 to 3 times a month, but your home base is remote? You know, do you want a set hybrid schedule? Do you want 2 days on, 3 days away, 3 days on, 2 days away? Do you want to work mostly at the center, but maybe 1 to 3 or 4 times a month, you know, remotely? Do you want to just, you know, work center only? You know, what are your preferences? That doesn't mean that everybody's going to get the preference, but it helped us better understand where everybody's mindset was. And then we had some open questions asking them, what are challenges at home from a work standpoint? What are challenges personally at home? You know, what challenges are you having with your departments and staff and teams? What challenges are you having with your workspaces? What challenges are you having with connectivity, you know, in different areas like that, so that we can better understand how to support whatever the next, you know, evolution of working is.
No. So yeah, I think that's brilliant. So are you doing, or maybe you, I don't know if you heard this, but so everybody at Kevin's Cray, in addition, if they provide evidence of being vaccinated, get put into a lottery for $1,000, and apparently there's going to be 3 winners at the end of September. Is that something you guys have considered?
Not at this time, no.
No. And would it be something you think, or is that just out of whack for culture?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that's something we would consider or not. I guess I wouldn't be the right person for that question.
I'm just interested, you know, it's just, it's all the different ideas, you know.
Sure.
Yeah. So, well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. It's good to see you again. Thanks for joining. Jim, you're up in Wyoming. Can you hear me?
I'm here. Can you hear
Hey,
me?
I can. Hey, Jim, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, great. Thanks for joining every week. You're one of our most steadfast joiners. That's what we call it, steadfast joiners. So tell everybody where you're at, what's going on, and give a little bit of information about your credit union and kind of what you're seeing.
I'm in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I'm at First Education Credit Union, and we're small. We have a small staff. We have 18 people, so we don't have to do a lot of polling to find out what people are thinking.
You just go hang out in the break room.
Just come into my office and tell me, but which is good. We have pretty open, dialogue with the employees and everything. We were lucky. We had all but 3 of our staff were vaccinated. We asked and we made them give us proof. And if they didn't, we about 3 weeks ago started making everybody that wasn't vaccinated wear masks again. Of course, with the members, I think making members wear masks is probably something that's going to have to be left to the government rather than us anymore. But in the last 2 weeks, 2 of the people that weren't vaccinated have tested positive. So, but nobody else has. So that was our situation. We just had Frontier Days here, which for those of you that aren't familiar is a huge event. They sold 279,000 tickets. And to put that in perspective, the population of Laramie County is 100,000.
Wow.
So there was huge crowd. It was nearly record. This was 125th anniversary. And the only crowds that have been larger were at the 100th, which was, 25 years ago.
So these people come nationwide, right, Jim?
Oh, yeah, worldwide.
Oh, worldwide.
Yeah. It's the largest outdoor rodeo in the world. And some of the largest purses are here. You know, you can win more money at Frontier Days than you can at any other rodeo. We had, if you like country music, we certainly had, you know, the top stars here. They have
I bet.
4 concerts, night concerts, 4 parades. I mean, it's, for a town the size of Cheyenne, it's quite an event.
I bet. I bet. Were there any precautions or anything like that? Like, you know, hey, we suggest you wear a mask, or is it just, hey, you know what, we're back to normal?
There was, you know, if you're not vaccinated, you should wear a mask.
Right.
But nobody was wearing, well, I won't say nobody.
Well, probably a tiny percentage, I would bet.
A small percentage, yeah.
Yeah.
And the vaccination rate here is low. I think it's 40% maybe.
Oh, wow.
So it's very low. That's one reason I was surprised at the level of our staff, which I think is great. But and I, you know, it just ended Sunday, so it's a little early to tell about, you know, any infection rates from the event.
Yeah.
But I assume there's going to be a big spike because a lot of the people that attend obviously are local, and then there's the people from outside the local area too. So I'm looking for a pretty big spike here fairly soon. I assume that the person that we had just test positive probably more than likely got it at one of the events because she went to a couple of concerts and to the rodeo and things like that. So, but we've been pretty strict about masks. Again, you know, with the members that, you know, we have signs that say, you know, if you're not vaccinated, we recommend you wear a mask. But I'm actually considering going back to requiring all employees to wear a mask when they're at work, if they can't be, you know, 6 feet apart.
And is your staff, are they pretty okay with that, or you think you'll get some feedback from it? What's that?
They've been really, even the ones that weren't vaccinated have not complained about having to wear a mask, because we were very strict about it from the beginning. I mean, as soon as we even, you know, started to let people come back to the office, the masks were mandatory. And I set the example. You know, me and the couple of VPs that we have, you know, they have to. But we've had a couple of people that have been vaccinated, but have been wearing a mask the majority of the time because they have family members that have, you know, some compromised immune system.
That's our family too. I'm the same way. You know, we're getting vaccinated, but we're still wearing our mask if we go someplace indoors or where there's a lot of people. So because we have that in our family as well. So
yep. And my parents are older, and I see them almost every day. So, I mean, it's, and this is personal opinion, it's a little discouraging to see, you know, here, I mean, they went back to like nothing had happened, a lot of places. And we've seen infections because of it.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, fortunately, you know, we've been able to deal with, you know, the couple of cases we've had, but if something happens and the infections, you know, people that are vaccinated start to become impacted more, I don't know what you know, if we had 4 or 5 people out sick, we'd be, you know, it would be a problem.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it sounds like we are regressing quite a bit here. And I saw some stats and some charts and things like that. It seems like everything was going okay up until like July 4th. And then all of a sudden the curve started going back up again right after July 4th with all these infections. So I'm thinking it's something like, you know, it'll be really interesting to see what the rodeo, if there's any spikes after the rodeo, something like that, you know, so when you have
Frontier Days is coming up. I forgot about that.
No, it's just ended.
They just had it.
Yeah, it just ended. Yeah, it ended Sunday. And record crowds, like I said earlier. I mean, they estimate that there were probably in excess of 75,000 visitors to Cheyenne.
Wow.
And again, you know, you're almost doubling the population of the county.
Yeah. It's a ton.
So, and it's huge economic impact. They're estimating over 30 million in
Gosh.
economic impact
Wow.
in 10 days.
Oh, yeah.
10 days.
It's a huge event. I've been twice. It was really fun.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's coming up too that'll affect you a little bit is Sturgis.
I was thinking Sturgis as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
that
Jim
was
usually, that's
huge
around the
for
time he
last
gets his
year.
motorcycle.
No, that's my
Uh,
brother's role.
Gotcha. No, Sturgis is definitely kind of, a lot of people ride through that area of Wyoming. It's beautiful. Jackson
Yep.
Hole on through Chugwater and up that way. So,
Well, that was a big deal last year. They went ahead and had it. So
Right.
Right. And had
we're
some
gonna-
problems because of it.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you know, I just thought it would be good to talk about this and get it out there, just because I think we're all facing uncertainty. I think the uncertainty is, Jim, you just made a good point. I think we don't know what we don't know about Delta yet. I
Right.
think that I think that they're finding out something new every day. Like, for example, I had a feeling about this, but what Kevin said about breakthrough infections just does not match what other people are saying. And that's been my instinct all along. For me to run into one, much less 8 inside 2 weeks, just those numbers don't add up for me. And then on top of that, Brazil is going nuts right now. And there's a lot of belief that that's something new called the Lambda variant. And, you know, that is of concern as well. And so 3 things, just, it's always good to get our heads together. There was at least, I think, 3 really good things that came out of this. Oh, there's always good stuff. I think, you know, Gary talking about, you know, HR trying to work with everybody from the standpoint of their situation and keeping an eye on the county at the county levels and the government level. I think everybody's probably doing that, but they need to even be more vigilant about that. I think the second one was, I like this lottery idea. I think it's a big deal. I think everybody should do it. I mean, we're seeing all these big corporations. If you look in the chat, there's been at least 5 posts in the last few minutes, Tyson, Walmart, so forth and so on. And I love the fact that it's a significant reward for addition. I think $1,000 is definitely something to get people interested.
I know, John, I know we're tight on time, but I'm just curious. I mean, it's all a matter of, you know, human psychology, but do you think that the opportunity to win the big lottery prize is better than the sure thing of the 150 or 200? Or if you got the money, I mean, it can't hurt to do both.
I'd do both. I would do both.
I mean, I don't know, Kevin, you've got the lottery going, and it's kind of hard to say because it's kind of an unknowable because you don't have a control group against, you know, just the, hey, we'll give everybody $150, but I'd love to know.
Well, they get the day off, so it's for most, that's the equivalent.
Yeah, pay
So,
day off.
and then they also need another day to recover in many cases, and they're getting that as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really, we talked about giving a smaller amount, like paying everybody, but we felt a larger amount would maybe get those people who are on the fence. Look, there's some, it doesn't matter the amount, they're not going to do it. It's
You're
just-
right. You want to move it on the margins. It's a really good point.
So,
Yep. And then the third one, I was really like Michael and his team talking about surveying. And I love the Jim's group's so small, you can keep track of everybody, but it also just shows the threat. I mean, you know, Jim's 18, but even Crayons that are at the 400 rate, you know, if you got a 4 or 5% knockout of your staff, that's a significant issue. Also, I think the other thing that was really important that Kevin brought up was, and Kevin, maybe just before we go, you can re-explain it, but if you were exposed, regardless of whether you were vaccinated or not, you're going home and you're going to have to come back with a clean test, right? Is that kind of what you were saying?
yeah, so if you have, even before it was if you had the vaccine and you were exposed, you just continued to work unless you felt symptoms, because we felt you were safe. Now, because of what's transpired and how many people we've had with the breakthroughs, even if you've had the vaccine, if you're exposed, we're asking you to go and get a test. And we don't accept rapid tests. We only accept the PCR test. So it was a 2-day process to get the results. Now that the numbers are higher, it seems to be taking 3 days. So it is definitely something that we're enforcing now. And then we're getting close contact lists from all of those people. so that if they do test positive, immediately we can reach out to the other close contacts. Now, I will say that thus far, we don't have any proof that anybody who has gotten sick from somebody that they worked with, unless there was a meeting outside of work. Like just within the building, the close contacts, we haven't had anybody who came and magically showed up positive. Now, we did have one where it was 2 people who worked together, but they happened to hang out together and go to some events outside the office. But outside of that, we don't have any proof yet that
Gotcha.
it's happened. Right.
Well, I think that's really smart. I think that, I think that's something everyone should adopt. I hope, Jim, sounds like you were already there, Michael, everybody, Gary. I think that's really important. I think you have to sort of respect the fact that that number that you shared, Kevin, it's not adding up. That's my takeaway from this. That chills me to know that. Well, it's been another great town hall. I can't thank my people, Kevin, Gary, everybody that comes on, everybody that posts things. Thank you for coming, and really appreciate your time and your sharing. And we'll keep on going. I actually am looking at getting possibly. I have a friend who's pretty high up in they're working on the next level of COVID vaccines, which is the more permanent one. See if maybe I can get her to join. She's really in the thick of it right now. Isn't that like a TikTok thing? Into the thick of it. I keep seeing that. But and then it gets stuck in my head. But anyways, Mike, thank you. Thank you,
You're welcome.
everyone. And
Yeah.
we'll be back. And I'll try to work with Glenn. Glenn, I think we should do a little blog on this, on these little 4 things that we came up with. I think everybody should. We should get that out as well.
Well, this takes us back to the roots of the original, the original reason why we, started the digital town hall. These were the first few that was, we were in the discussions. So
Yeah,
this is the topic.
I just got that stuck in Kim Schmidt's head. So yeah, you and me both. All right, Gary, thank you.
Yep. Thanks, John. Good
Thanks,
to see
everybody.
you.
That was awesome.
All right.
See you later.